So, what is the role of investment banks in IPOs? Historically, investment bankers have been the trusted advisors of companies, which help them to get over this IPO process very smoothly. Okay, so what are their activities? Number one, they help in understanding that when is the right time to go public. Okay, they provide this guidance to the company that now is the right time to go public. Next, IPO preparations. Now, how can the company position itself to attract the investors, to lure the investors, right? So it also helps them, the investment bankers help the company to organize meetings between the company's management and investors, right? And to present this investment opportunity to the investors. Third, deal with investors. So, in addition to the IPO preparations, the investment bankers will build list of investors' intentions, and then they will determine that at what price the company will be able to sell its shares. Right? That is called book building. And lastly, once the IPO has been done, it has taken place, then investment bankers will exercise certain instruments, okay, that is there at their disposal in order to stabilize the stock price in the very first days of the IPO. Okay, so that if at all the stock is trading in the market, then it needs to be stabilized. Okay, so that is an IPO. Next, if a company is already listed in the market and if it wants to issue some additional shares, then is that possible? Okay, in that case, yes, it is definitely possible, and in that case, it is called SEO. Okay, not an IPO. This time, since the securities are already listed in the market, this will not be called an IPO. IPO is when the securities are getting listed for the very first time. Okay, so if they are issuing the already listed shares again, then it will be called SEO, or seasoned equity offering. Okay, so now it is a relatively easier process, much easier process, because everything is already in place, right? The company is already listed on the stock exchange, its shares already have a value, right? It has a price at which it is being traded. So it has already created, okay, during the time of IPO, it has already created all the necessary documents which is required to be in compliance with the financial regulations, right? So the role of investment bankers is only limited to finding the investors who will buy the additional shares and those who will participate in the company's increase of capital. Okay, so there will be several meetings between investment banks and potential buyers, and the securities then will be underwritten. And once the sufficient demand has been created, then the securities will be issued. Okay, so that is SEO, or seasoned equity offerings. So that was about equity markets. We talked about IPO, we talked about SEO, right? So the next way of getting access to the public markets is going via the debt route, okay, or the bonds market. So debt capital markets are the second main pillar of underwriting services besides equity. Now, most people think that debt is only taking loans from the commercial banks, okay, but that is not necessarily the case. A company or even governments can borrow money directly from the public. Okay, so a company could be interested in issuing debt securities, which is also called bonds. A bond is not very different from an equity offering. If I have to say about the process, how the bonds will be issued, how the bonds will be listed, then the process is very similar. Okay, the players involved are also almost the same, right? The players are also the same. The main difference is that bonds can be issued by governments as well. Okay, so that is the only difference. Governments cannot issue equity shares, but yes, they can issue bonds. So public debt markets work very efficiently when the amount to be borrowed is very substantial, because in that case we have many players, and when we have many players, the market is very, very efficient. So several investors will buy these securities and expect that some interest rate will be paid, some interest amount will be paid throughout the duration of the bond. Okay, so that is debt markets. So, what is the role of an investment bank in raising debt? Okay, this is very similar to the equity investment bankers. Okay, so they will advise the loan terms, they will help company prepare presentations, they will find potential investors, and they will also help to find the price of the loan. Okay, at what coupon, at what yield the bonds needs to be issued, and on average, now bonds are much easier to price because compared to equity, mainly because every company that issues bond has a credit rating, right? So which gives an opinion about the credit worthiness of that particular company. Okay, that is expressed by some independent credit agencies. So they will help the company. That rating will help the investment bankers to assign a price to the debt instrument. Okay, all right. So going ahead, next is loan syndications. Okay, when we talk about the debt services that are offered by investment banks, then loan syndication is another form of debt capital market services that are offered by investment banks. Okay, and this has become very popular in the recent years. So, what are loan syndications? These are loans granted by a pool of banks. Okay, so usually several banks will get a portion of the loan rather than giving out the entire loan by one single bank. Okay, so such a group of bank is called a syndicate. So syndicated loans are a hybrid, I can say, between the bonds and commercial banking loans. Okay, so this is a hybrid method between these two ways. Now there can be several reasons why any bank would prefer or would be interested in the loan syndications process. Okay, number one, that is diversification. Okay, it helps bank diversify their loan portfolio. Next is fee generation. Okay, and thirdly, it is lending opportunities in new geographic areas. Okay, wherein they do not have any presence in some geographies. Many banks do not have any presence, right? So if they want to get exposure to these geographies, they can become a part of a loan syndication, and they will be able to get access to that geography, right? So these are the main reasons why loan syndications, why any investment bank would be interested in loan syndications. Fine. So these are the main types of equity and debt offerings in which a bank's in an investment bank's capital market division would be involved. All right. So here is a general knowledge for you. Okay, these are some of the largest IPOs that have taken place in the history so far. So we can see that the largest IPO that was recently announced was by the company Saudi Aramco, right, which is a Saudi Arabia based company which is into petroleum and natural gas products. Okay, so that was the size of the IPO was $29.4 billion. Okay, and it is one of the largest company in terms of revenue as well. Okay, if not the largest, one of the largest. Okay, and also in terms of profit, this is also one of the largest companies in the entire world. Okay, so that was the largest IPO. And after that, End Financial, okay, a China based company, was about to come with an IPO, but that was suspended for regulatory reasons. So there are some issues going on with the company, but they were about to come with an IPO of around 34.5 billion. Okay, so that is expected. Okay, so this 34.5 billion is expected. It has not come out yet, but we are expecting it. And rest are the actual IPOs that have already taken place. Okay, so you can see that there are many companies coming from China. Alibaba.com. In fact, N Financial is also a company that is belonging to the Alibaba group. Fine. So yeah, that was just for your general information. Now I would also like you to do some homework. So if you can do it, okay, today is the world of the era of information, right? You have Google, you have Chat GPT, you can ask anything and you can get any information. So the only guidance that I need to give you is in what direction you should use that technology, right? So you need to build your GK around it in the industry that you are about to get into, right? So I want you to know that which was the largest IPO in India, okay, that has taken place so far. What is the deal size of that IPO, right? What was the amount of the IPO and was it a successful IPO or not? Okay, so I need your opinion on that. If you want to share your opinion, you can use the Discord server, or at least please be aware of these kind of answers or these kind of questions, so that when you actually sit for an interview you feel very much confident. All right, so that's all for this particular discussion.